What's up, everyone? Welcome to a very special Wednesdays with Vish. Usually it's Mondays with Vish, but Vish is still in college and his major is extremely difficult. I am surprised that he doesn't cancel more often to do homework, but he seems like he's a good student and he's got it on lock. From what I heard, according to my sources, he did very well in his report. So everyone give it up for Vish. Now he's got a little time. Let's talk Niners, starting with not the quarterback of the defense, Fred Warner. What do you think is going to happen here with this extension?
Yeah, I think it's going to get done right after the draft. I don't think Fred Warner goes to camp without a new contract. I think
just the way that Kittle didn't, but that took longer. Yeah,
but I don't even think it's the Kittle situation. I think the numbers will be easier with Warner because they've done highest paid middle linebacker deal twice with Parag Marathe. They did it with Patrick Willis. They did it with Navarro Bowman. I think they will do it with Fred Warner. I think it's imperative that they do get it done because I think the thing with the DeForest Buckner deal, you can sell that this regime didn't draft him, so they weren't exactly married to him. Fred Warner is everything you hope to do as a regime. You hope to draft a player in the middle rounds. You hope he starts every game for 3 years, and you hope he becomes an all-pro superstar, best player in his position type player. And he's
leader, captain, yada, yada, everything.
Everything. Yeah. He checks every box on and off the field. So I think this deal has to get done. I think it'll look bad if the Niners don't get it done, and I think they will get it done. I think it'll help especially because, one, I don't think they're going to tear up Warner's contract, so he's going to remain cheap for this year. It'll be an add-on and an extension. And two, I think it'll be easier to manage because I think Jimmy G will be gone a little bit after the draft, and so the numbers with Fred Warner won't look bad at all.
Interesting. So what you're saying is the reason it dragged on last year was because it was a unique historical contract breaking all type precedents for a tight end. That makes sense. And this is not going to be like that. Yeah. He's not going to be the richest linebacker of all time. He'll be maybe the highest linebacker for now, but there's much more of a template as to what he's worth. Kittle was more of like a unicorn. Although it's funny, Warner's going to get more money than Kittle.
Oh, absolutely. Because what's Bobby Wagner? Bobby Wagner's at 18.
18.
Yeah, so I think he'll be 19, 20. And I think if the Niners, here's the other reason they need to get it done fast. There's one more linebacker from that 2018 draft class that's going to be up. Second-round pick, Darius Leonard. You want to get the Warner deal done first.
That is a great point. Because the one who gets it done second pays more.
Exactly.
Yes.
And sets and the one who gets it done gets to set the market.
Exactly. Interesting. So there is much more urgency to get this done sooner as opposed to later like last year.
Yeah, and there's a couple more guys too. Those two guys have the fifth-year option, and they're not as good as Warner and Darius Leonard. But what's his name? Roquan Smith and Tremaine Edmonds are both quite good players, and they will get extensions too. So
I'm adding a topic since you just threw it out there, and with a smirk on your face, I'm not going to let you get away with that. So you said that Fred Warner, hold on, let me put it here. Boom. You said that Fred Warner deal is going to be a little bit easier to do after the draft because Jimmy Garoppolo won't be on the team anymore. Could you just expand? I know we've talked about this before, but what's your, as of April 21, what is your expectation here with Jimmy?
To me, Jimmy Garoppolo being on this team makes no sense for both parties involved, okay? You don't trade 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick for a guy to sit for 1 year at quarterback. You're paying that much because why, Grant? You're desperate and you need to go get a starting quarterback, not a backup quarterback, a starting one. So that's one. Two, and I've talked about this a lot, and if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, look, if Jimmy Garoppolo, everybody wants to romanticize the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes situation, and I don't think that situation is applicable. I've tweeted about it before. I've talked about it, and I'll explain it why. There's 2 reasons. The first reason, the exam was quite good. It wasn't an exam, actually. I have the exam in this class on Thursday. It was a homework assignment. But for 2 reasons, the Patrick Mahomes, Alex Smith situation isn't applicable. First thing is that a lot of teams have tried the bridge quarterback route. Alex Smith made the playoffs, had the best season of his career. That worked. What about Sam Bradford with the Arizona Cardinals, Grant? What about Tyrod Taylor last year with Justin Herbert? What about Tyrod Taylor with Baker Mayfield? Now, you can argue that Jimmy's better than all of them, but the point is that this bridge quarterback thing usually doesn't work because even in the case when Kurt Warner is 5-5 with the Giants, ownership and head coaches want the Eli Manning era to start, and Eli Manning ends up playing and Kurt Warner goes to Arizona. So
now you could argue that perhaps Brady, Mahomes, Romo, Rodgers did benefit from sitting on the bench, although it's hard to prove.
Because here, and that's the second point, right? I think Splash Cousin Jordan, he says it best. He goes, you can't tell me that Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have been pretty good his first year starting. Like, sure, that year helped him, right? But that second year of starting, he threw 50 touchdown passes.
True.
You can't tell me
Brady,
that. But Brady wasn't a first round pick, right? Exactly. We're talking about the number 3 overall, Patrick Mahomes' 10th overall pick, right? That's big.
That's
so. And again, going back to Jimmy Garoppolo's perspective, here's why it doesn't make sense. If Jimmy Garoppolo gets benched midway through this season as the 49ers quarterback, let's say they go into the season with Garoppolo as the starter and he gets benched, he will never go into another training camp as the presumptive starting quarterback for any team in the NFL. He will not be any team's short-term future. And he's already 30 years old. And he only has, what,
he'll have 20, to go the Mitchell Trubisky
games of starting?
Yeah.
Right. So what will happen is that. So what if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, you're trying to get yourself to, again, Kyle Shanahan said it in his presser, one team's getting left at the altar. Denver's getting left at the altar. Or Washington. One of these teams is getting left at the altar. These are playoff caliber rosters. If you're Jimmy Garoppolo, you're trying to get yourself to one of these rosters because now if you make the playoffs next year and you play really well, you're the short-term future for that team. And you remain the starting quarterback for the next 2 to 3 years, barring injury. So for both sides, I just don't see the sense in keeping Garoppolo. And if you're Garoppolo, why would you want to stay here?
So your best guess, the Niners take their quarterback at 3 and then suddenly become open to trading Jimmy Garoppolo and complete the deal by day 2?
Well, they won't phrase it like that, right? It'll be
they won't phrase it like that. But magically, all of a sudden, hey, we're taking calls. Hey, maybe we've lowered our demands a little bit.
Oh wow, we got the best. Oh, that offer we couldn't refuse. We couldn't refuse that.
That's how they'll say. You know what? We didn't want to trade Jimmy. We wanted him to compete, but we got this offer we couldn't refuse. Yep,
absolutely. And I keep going back to $250,000 guaranteed for Nate Sudfeld. You don't give a quarterback $250,000 guaranteed if you don't think he's going to make your roster.
It doesn't sound like a lot of money on football terms, but it's a lot of money. You don't just hand that to someone. You're like, you know what, we're going to cut you, but have $250,000 for fun.
For a third string job, but that's just $250,000 guaranteed, so you'll sign here.
Here's $250,000. We're going to cut you in 6 months. Have a great time. Go to Cancun when you're not in the league next year. On us. Doesn't happen. No. So, yeah, it's a good point. The Sudfeld factor. Big Bad Brad says, who will end up with Troy Warner? Wouldn't it be nice to get the two brothers on the field together? Have you watched much of Troy Warner? I haven't.
Not a minute.
Sorry, Big Bad Brad. Here's what I do. When someone gives a donation for a question I can't answer, I say that I'll get back to you. So what I'll do is I'll watch some Troy Warner. I promise. I will do some scouting, and I'll get back to you. I promise, all right? I'll get back to you. All right, let's move on. Okay. We did Garoppolo. We did Fred Warner. All right, let's talk quarterbacks just for a minute, but it's not going to be any of the quarterbacks we've been talking about recently. I have been coming around to the quarterbacks everyone has been liking. Like, finally, I see what other people are intrigued with Trey Lance. And I definitely see why people like Mac Jones. I'm a little bit more down on Justin Fields and other people, but I think we all can agree on his strengths. I mean, the dude has a lot of them. So I get it. You are sort of on the other path. Like, you're going back to the people that I was on earlier, and you are now sort of Kellen Mond is growing on you, is what you've told me. So I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but what's your thought process here?
So I wouldn't say he's growing on me, because I think from the time I've kind of been with this consistency that he's a top 50 pick, he's a second round pick for sure, and he would be awesome. This was when the Niners were at 12. I thought, well, if the 5 quarterbacks go, Kellen Mond at 43 would be incredible value. I've always felt that way. I still think you're nuts for having him over Justin Fields. I think Chris Sims is nuts for having him over Justin Fields. But that's just the way I feel about it. Even Trey Lance. But here's the thing with Kellen Mond. I'm starting to hear arguments for these quarterbacks, whether it's for Mac Jones, whether it's for Trey Lance, even in some cases Justin Fields, that I think you can really make for Kellen Mond. Like, everyone always makes the upside argument. Kellen Mond has as much physical talent. I mean, I would say Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence are the three maxed out prospects in terms of physical talent. I would say if those guys are a 10 in terms of physical talent, Kellen Mond's a 9. Like, forget the stiffness or how high he holds the ball.
I agree.
This guy runs a 4.6 or 4.5 40, and he has a really, really, really strong arm. So that's one thing. The second thing is I think what's happened to Kellen.
You could say he's more athletic than Zach Wilson, who's a hell of a player.
I think he has a bigger arm, just in terms of power. He has more power in his arm than Zach Wilson. In
terms of arm power and 40 time, I mean, he's right there. So I'm not saying he's better than Zach Wilson, although I am saying he's better than Zach Wilson. Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying, Kellen Mond, he's right there in the ballpark with these guys.
In terms of just raw physical tools. Yeah. And I think the one thing that's happened to Kellen Mond is, and then the other argument, before I get to that, the other argument we hear with Trey Lance and Mac Jones is pro-style offense. This guy started for Jimbo Fisher for basically 3 years, more than about 3.5 years. He started for Jimbo Fisher. I remember when Jameis Winston was coming out. Grant, what did they say about that offense?
Pro-style.
And when you watch the offense, are those concepts pro-style? Yes.
No question about it. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so that's the other argument. So if we make the ceiling argument for Lance and Fields, and I think Fields is better than Mond, I also think Lance is better than Mond, but if we make the ceiling argument, we can make the ceiling argument for Mond too. And if we make the pro-style argument, we can make the pro-style argument for Mond. So then I was wondering, why are people so low on Mond? Especially because his last season was good. They went 9-1, and he had 19 touchdowns and 3 picks. Like, statistically, that's a really nice season for not a very good team in Texas A&M. Yeah. And then you go back and you realize, oh, he was kind of bad sometimes as a sophomore. Ooh, there was some real ugly stuff as a junior. And the difference between him and Trey Lance or him and Mac Jones is that those guys just don't have sample size. Right. So what I did was I went back and pulled the statistics from Kellen Mond's last 17 starts.
Which is a fair way to compare him to freaking Mac Jones, who's older than him and really only played as a 21.
For Jones, 17 starts for Lance. So
maybe Mac Jones would have struggled if he were on the field when Tua was, but he wasn't on the field, and he just looked polished and perfect.
Right. So I pulled the last 17 starts. Kellen Mond's numbers in his last 17 starts would be the best numbers he would have in any of his 3 seasons in college football, except probably his senior year. He completed about 62% of his passes. He averaged 29 throws a game, which is 11 more than Trey Lance's 18. He averaged 211 yards a game passing, and he had 27 touchdowns and 8 picks. Now, there's one problem with his last 17 games. He probably has the ugliest stat line of a quarterback ever in his last 17 games in that LSU game at the end of, I want to say, 2019. And I think that's what really turned people off on him, because the LSU game, if you go back and watch, you can make excuses for Kellen Mond. Like, the receivers weren't getting open. He was under duress all game, but he didn't play well.
No, he didn't.
And he was 10 for 30, 92 yards, 3 picks. Now, those stats are ugly, right? And I don't want to talk about stats when we talk about them, but those stats are ugly. So but
that explains why he's not even on the media's radar. That explains it. Yes.
Of course, because that was a national game. I remember, and he was bad. He was bad. So then I went back and I pulled his full statistics, including rushing, without the LSU game, okay? Kellen Mond in his last 17 starts is 14-3, okay? With Texas A&M, pretty good in terms of record. We do all these things, okay? So 14-3. In terms of without the LSU game, his completion percentage bumps up to 64%, which is mid-60s, solid. Wow. His yards per game jumps up to 218, and he has 27 touchdowns and 5 picks. So a really nice touchdown to interception ratio. And in his last 17 games, Kellen Mond, when they were
hold on. Say that real quick again. Say that TD to INT ratio.
27 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Okay, real quick. When Dak Prescott was a senior at Mississippi State, now this was 13 games. Dak Prescott's great. His final year, 29 touchdowns, 5 picks. I'm just saying.
I think the thing with Dak Prescott is, though, there was a special intangible aspect to Dak Prescott that we don't know if Kellen Mond has.
Yes, he's great. It's ambitious to call Kellen Mond Dak Prescott, but there are some similarities.
So let me continue, because in his last 17 starts, Grant, Kellen Mond has played 6 teams that were ranked in the top 25 when he played them. He played number 4 ranked Georgia. He played number 2 ranked LSU, number 25 ranked Oklahoma State, number 13 ranked UNC in the bowl game, number 4 ranked Florida, and number 2 ranked Alabama. And that's not including in the last 2 years. He also played number 1 ranked Alabama, number 8 ranked Auburn, and number 1 ranked Clemson.
That's right.
And he played 5 ranked teams, and he's 14-3 with not that good of a team in his last 17 starts. Now, this isn't to
Zach Wilson, who everyone likes, who's 2-5 against ranked teams in his career. I'm just saying, you can make arguments for Kellen Mond.
This isn't to say Kellen Mond. No. I think Kellen Mond's a top 10 pick. No way. Nope. This isn't to say I think Kellen Mond's even a first. I think he could be an end of a first round pick. I mostly think he's an early second round pick. That's just the way I feel about him. This is just to say the arguments that we make for these other quarterbacks can be made for Kellen Mond. Pro style offense, Mac Jones, Trey Lance. Kellen Mond was a 3.5-year starter in a pro style offense. Physical tools, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. If their physical tools are a 10, his physical tools are like an 8.5, a 9. It's really close. And then the other thing I would say is with Lance, everybody says his one big issue is accuracy. He can improve on it. He can improve on it. He can improve on it. Mond's issue is also inconsistent accuracy.
And he has improved on it. You can see it.
Yeah.
So people who like Trey Lance, why wouldn't you like Kellen Mond? Makes a lot of sense to me. And the way, look, we've talked about him a lot. I think the comparison that we've come to with him, which is maybe a little ambitious, but he's a lot like Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson's a better athlete. Lamar Jackson's the best athlete in the world. But in terms of throwing, in terms of passing, Lamar Jackson played in a pro-style offense in college and had a lot of reps. He did not complete a high percentage of his passes in college, but he improved. And look at him now. Now he completes 66% of his throws, and he's got that quick release. He's not the most natural thrower, but he's more than a functional passer. He's a good passer, and he's a hell of an athlete. I feel like Mond has a lot of that.
Where's his strengths throwing the ball to? Lamar Jackson, short, intermediate, over the middle of the field. That's Kellen Mond's pass game too.
That's right.
And I think Kellen Mond has a stronger arm than Lamar Jackson. And obviously Lamar Jackson's a way more dynamic athlete, but Kellen Mond's a pretty good athlete too.
Correct. Well, thanks for laying that out for everyone. I feel like I've been coming on this channel and like doing it by myself, saying, hey guys, I think this guy is really good. And then I have people on there like, I just don't see it. He's stiff. Like, I'm sorry. What does that mean? I'm glad that you at least see what Chris Sims and I see. I'm not saying that
I don't see what you guys see. No.
I'm not. Well, I mean, you could see the strengths.
Yes.
I think we're a little bit more optimistic, but at least you see where we're coming from and you see why there's a lot to like about the kid.
Yeah, my point is I can see the positives with him. Now, I wouldn't go as both of you think he's better than Justin Fields. For me, that's like crazy. I don't even think he's better than Trey Lance. I think he's comfortably QB6. I think he's way better than Kyle Trask, way better than Davis Mills. I don't think he should be in the conversation with those guys. I think he's way better than them. But my point is every single positive argument that has been laid out for every single quarterback at the top of this draft, for whatever reason, doesn't get laid out for him.
I know, because he's stiff. His combination of experience, decision-making, and athleticism is highly intriguing to me. Highly intriguing.
And not to mention with Zach Wilson, I don't think we've talked about Zach Wilson a lot here. And I think part of it is because the assumption is just that he's going to go number 2 overall. But one of the things that always I found special with Zach Wilson is that I don't think his receivers separate. And he was managing to throw into tight windows constantly and complete passes. I think Mond had the same problem. And okay, he's not as gifted at throwing receivers open outside and stuff than Zach Wilson. But I think he's got enough arm strength in his arm where I think he can be a way better outside thrower than Lamar Jackson has been in the NFL. Because deeper and outside of the numbers is where Lamar Jackson has struggled. And I would say part of it is because he doesn't have as strong an arm as somebody like Kellen Mond. So I think he could be a functional starter in the NFL. His play style might be a little too conservative. For a guy with all the traits he has, he does play quite conservative. Yeah. He doesn't use his legs maybe as much as he should and all of that. Yes. So he might have a defined ceiling in terms of it's like Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor has a huge arm. Tyrod Taylor has really fast feet. He can really run, but he plays like he's weak-armed. He plays like he's Nick Mullins. He doesn't have arm strength and he's slow because he plays from the pocket, checks the ball down, all that. Kellen Mond plays a little bit like that from that standpoint. But I think that Kellen Mond is one of the quarterbacks in this draft that's capable of being a starter in the NFL that you could win with.
Thank you for laying that out. I feel like I'm not crazy. I know we don't 100% agree on him, but everything you said, I agree with, and it made my day. So thank you. Real quick, I want to address a couple of things. Barry Baller says, does Fields' epilepsy affect his stock? Apparently, 10, 15 minutes ago, a report came out that he has told NFL teams that he has epilepsy. Now, I don't know that much about epilepsy, just to say that, but it doesn't seem like, I mean, I know it's serious, but it's something that could affect your health, but I don't know that it necessarily would affect a football player's career he should be okay, right?
Isn't that I don't know a lot about it, but isn't that the seizures?
Yeah, it can be very serious, and if it's debilitating, then that's not good, but it's not like it makes him less of a football player.
I don't know why it should hurt his stock, because
it shouldn't hurt his
stock. Prior to this, we haven't seen any reason that he has any sort of I don't know why. Unless maybe it's I don't know anything about it. So maybe there's a health concern tied with it, like Reuben Foster's shoulder, like an actual medical concern,
right? Or like Chris Bosch's heart, something like that. Yeah. Well, it's like something to investigate. I don't know. Yeah.
No clue.
Anyway, thanks for asking. Kurt Reynolds says trade back with Atlanta for Matt Ryan, then take Pitts at 4 and Davis in the second.
Nah, I think the entire part of this deal is to get financially cheaper at the quarterback position, and I think that's the detail everybody's missing on. And so no.
Let's stick with that for a second then. The Niners, it's partially they want to upgrade from Jimmy Garoppolo, but we've talked about it during the season. It's like if you have a lateral move at quarterback and he's a fraction of the price, that's also an upgrade as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's how maybe Kyle could sell it to Jed. Like, look, I mean, Mac Jones, he's not that much better than Jimmy, but he could be. And just the fact that he's cheaper lets us upgrade the rest of the team. That's a good point. I mean, I've been making that point for years. All right, let's get off the quarterbacks for now. The Niners
is my Wi-Fi struggling?
It was, but you're back. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
I'll let you know. Okay, so the Niners have other needs. One of them is wide receiver. Kendrick Bourne was crucial for them. Never a full-blown starter, but a guy who filled in a lot, played about at least as much as Kyle Juszczyk. So what do you think the best way is to replace him, or how do you think the Niners will do it?
So I was really opposed to the Niners drafting a receiver in rounds 1 through 4. Obviously, let's take one out of it, 2 through 4. And part of it is because I'm so sick of the resources they've invested into this position for basically batting 50-50. They hit Debo Ayuk, they missed Hurd Pettis, and they're all in the same range. Basically, Ayuk was a late one. Debo was was a really early 2. So kind of this similar value. And then Pettis was mid 2 and Hurd was early 3. So we're talking kind of in the same similar range of like 60 picks that these guys were drafted. And they're 2 for 4 right now. So when you've drafted 4 receivers fairly high, you would hope that you would at least have more than 2 starters on your list. So I do think that receiver is a position to need, and I do think they need to address it. I think part of what Kendrick Bourne brought was reliability. He was able to play 16 games the last 4 years, which they have not really had from any receiver. So that was huge. And I feel like his drops, it was like one of those things where when Kendrick Bourne drops a pass, everybody remembers it. I think was a kind of a prisoner of bad timing, where his drops were just more memorable for people. But I do think he was reliable in the sense that he made a lot of big third down catches, and he made a lot of big red zone catches that I think go under the radar because people think all he did was drop them, when in reality was he also made a lot of big catches for this team. So from that standpoint, I do think he needs to be replaced. I've been coming around to that idea. Now, I wouldn't prefer that they go with a receiver in the second round, but if they do, if Terrace Marshall's on the board, I feel like that's just too good value to turn down. I think he's basically a first-round pick at receiver, but I think he would be perfect because he can line up in all 3 spots. He's got great hands. He's more explosive than Bourne. He separates more than Bourne, so I think he would be a perfect fit because he also brings what Bourne brought. But otherwise, I think, I haven't gotten too deep into this draft just because between the quarterbacks and then trying to watch all the first-round prospects so I could do a full mock with Blake soon, This has been hard, but we did do a video on this with Croc. Shameless plug to my channel, Blake and Vish Sports. Check it out if you can. But where he brought up a few names. He brought up a guy from Arkansas State, and he brought up a few other guys. And
Arkansas State. Did he go to Arkansas State?
Croc, I have no
clue. Yeah. I forget. He might have gone. He went to somewhere in Arkansas. He lives in
Or he might have brought Arkansas State. He brought up
only Croc would know someone from Arkansas State. That's baller. I love Croc for that. That's tight. Anyway, look, we were on the phone the other day. I was saying I think they're going to take a wide receiver in round 2. I mean, they gave Kendrick Bourne a second round tender. He's a crucial part of the offense. But the more I think about it, I don't know. I mean, they have these wide receivers I forgot about. They signed Mohamed Sanu. Mm-hmm. They still have Travis Benjamin. They still have Richie James that I haven't forgotten about. They still have freaking Jalen Hurd, Kevin White, River Craycraft. I mean, they could say, Jawan Jennings. They have a ton of bodies there, and they could say, you know what, we don't have to take a wide receiver in round 2. We have other needs. We'll take one in day 3 and add them to the mix of people who could step up.
So my thing is, and I think that line of thinking is where I originally was, and I kind of still lean that way. It was just a question I thought was so draft specific. Yeah. I think the big thing is what the Niners need is a veteran receiver. They need someone reliable, right? And the thing with Mo Sanu is at this point, we don't know what he has in his legs because Mo Sanu looks heavy running down the field because he looks like a guy that's legs have taken a beating over a 6-7 year NFL career of being a good player. Travis Benjamin is going to help the return game, I think, and I think he's actually going to be a contributor. I think the big thing is that Travis Benjamin is not the Kendrick Bourne replacement. Like Richie James.
He's more like a Taylor Gabriel type.
Right. Yeah. I think Richie James is a really good player, but again, he's not Kendrick Bourne replacement. No. I've heard some very positive things about Kevin White. Very positive. But I'll have to.
Yeah, it's true. Could be Kevin White. Kyle Shanahan likes River Craycraft, although he's not Kendrick Bourne.
Right. So I think River Craycraft isn't making the team. I think he's practice squad right away, right here, right now. But Kevin White could be that guy, but can you rely on that? Same thing with Jalen Hurd. So if you're drafting a guy, you're just bringing in another uncertainty to a position
also Jawan Jennings.
A bunch of uncertain bodies. Jawan Jennings is another uncertainty that could be that guy. So I think that's where maybe somebody gets some veteran receiver that's pretty good, gets cut maybe post June 1st or before preseason or something, and the Niners can maybe bring him in and he can be that reliable third guy. Because he doesn't have to be much. He just has to be something. Kind of like the way Jerick O'Cotry was for the 49ers in 2016 before Trent Taylor beat him out in 2017.
And to be fair, the Niners don't necessarily need a one-for-one replacement for Kendrick Bourne.
No.
They also could get a smaller slot receiver like Trent Taylor, and that's a guy you can get in round 5. So interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, 100%. And part of the reason we keep stressing the replacement of Kendrick Bourne, honestly, I was thinking about this, is because every single person is uncertain whether Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk can both play 17 games. Right. That's what it is.
That's what it comes down to, for sure.
Yeah.
RMJ Motoring says, Matt Mayoko's podcast today stated Lance or Fields should be the 49ers pick. Looks like he's off the Jones train. How's the stinger? Stinger's great. There's difference between should and will.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do that a lot too. What you think they should do, what you think they will do.
You don't like to do that a lot. You love to do that. That's your favorite thing to do.
It's two different discussions. A prescription, a description. What do I think they should do? What do I think they will do? He's saying he's been very, very consistent. He thinks they're going to take Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's sort of not hedging his bets, but this is a new topic, what they should do. And I agree with him, man. Take the risk. You're Kyle Shanahan. Go for it. But I understand that. I think what's your reaction to? I didn't hear the podcast.
Yeah, I would love to hear the context of what he's saying because I'm not doubting whether he said it or not. RMJ Motoring definitely believe in the code and all that. I just love to see, was he phrasing it from the standpoint of I think that's who they should take, or I think they should end up taking one of those two, because both of those two sentences have different meanings, and we'll see. But for the most part, he's been it's funny because the beat everybody. I don't know where Grant's been Kyle Pitts. Kawakami has been Justin Fields. Mayoko has been Jones. Rest of the beat has been Lance. So it's like nobody really knows. Everybody's just taking a shot with one guy.
Dude came on my Cohn Zone the other day and said he put $100 on the Niners taking Kyle Pitts, and I think he's got like plus 1,500 odds. So I'm hoping they take Pitts just for him.
Yeah, I guess he's just got $100 to spend like that, huh?
That was me 2 weeks ago at the craps table in Tahoe, man. I never lost $100 so fast. I was like, well, that was really fun. And then when they took my money, the guy gave me a look. It's like, hey, no risk, no fun. I was like, man, you stand here and you
no
lose
risk,
$100.
no biscuit. Bruce
Thanks,
Arians
man. Appreciate it a lot. When you put it in that perspective, losing $100 is a lot more fun. All right, let's go to corner. Same discussion, except we're talking Verrett. They don't have to replace him, but I think they got to back him up because he's great. But we know his history. And even last year, which was as good of a season he's ever had, he pulled his hamstring in camp, missed the first 2 games. What is the backup plan here? Because if they lose him, I think you're going back to a bad secondary.
So I think you're right. I think the corner position, if they lose Jason Verrett, becomes like bad. It's not. It won't be good. It'll be one of the worst starting corner tandems in the NFL. And
we're talking Dante Johnson and Emmanuel Mosley. Yeah,
Emmanuel Mosley is a really solid player. He's a corner 2 always. He's not your cornerback 1.
Yeah.
Yes. And so here's the thing. I think that you've actually covered the first scenario, and that's kind of the Debbie Downer. Oh no, what happens if he gets hurt scenario? I think they need to draft one, even if the best case scenario, what happens? What happens if Jason Verrett starts 17 games, okay? What happens? He's probably going to play great because he's never not played great when he played in the NFL. Sans 4 snaps versus the Pittsburgh Steelers when he returned in 2019. So he's going to probably play great. And that means that he's going to command a salary of $10 to $12 million in the open market. Oh, yeah. If you're the 49ers, is it prudent to pay a 31 or 32-year-old corner $10 to $12 million? Probably not. Are you going to have that kind of money knowing that if Nick Bosa stays healthy, that extension is 100% imminent, and the Fred Warner extension is going to kick in, and Eric Armstead is going to go to Eric Armstead is going to go to $20 million in terms of his cap hit? Probably not. So if the best case scenario happens, you need a corner. And I think the reason that the Niners are in such a good spot is because this is a really deep corner class. I don't know if there's no, in my opinion at least, there's no Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Peterson in this draft. A guy that you just say, Marshawn Lattimore, take him in the top 5 picks, elite athlete, elite technique. You put him on one side and he's going to start at corner for you for the next 5-6 years. I don't look at it any corner like this. I know J.C. Horn's really good. I know Surtain is good, but I think they all have individual question marks, which is why they're not cinch top 5, top 6 picks. Because if they were Jalen Ramsey in this draft, Atlanta at 4, nobody would mock Kyle Pitts. Everyone would say, well, you don't have to take quarterback. Just take the best player available. That's Jalen Ramsey. Take him. Done deal, right? But what we do know about this draft is that there's I think Mel Kiper said he thinks 40 corners are capable of going between rounds 1 through 7. So there's massive depth. And we've seen guys like Tyson Campbell tested decently. Greg Newsome tested really well. Eric Stokes tested really well. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of names I'm missing that tested really well throughout this process that are going to be available in round 2 and round 3. And the benefit that the Niners have is at least in their short term, there's no expectation for that guy to start. So you can get a toolsy guy and teach him technique. Kelvin Joseph is another one. And you can teach him technique, have him play hard on special teams. And by year 2, he can be your starting corner on one side. Or maybe year 1, he takes the job from Emmanuel Mosley. You can kick Emmanuel Mosley inside, and now you have your kind of secondary for the year after if K'Wan Williams walks. Because he's another guy, if everything goes right, he's not going to have a $2 million deal on the table next offseason. So when you look at all those things, I think corners in need. I think they actually need to double dip. I don't think it's just you take one corner and the corner position is fixed. I think you need to do what the Green Bay Packers did in 2018 when they took Jair Alexander at 18 and then they took Josh Jackson in the 40s. You got to do that. You got to take one in the second round, one in the third round. You got to bring them into camp because the Niners need bodies.
Wow. So we both agree they should take a corner with their second pick. No question. See, I was going to lean towards offensive line with the third pick, but I'm intrigued. Back-to-back corner. I can't argue with it. I like it. The only thing is I think offensive line is a big need too, and I'm not really in favor of waiting for like the Colton McKivitz 5th round sweet spot, but there is the 4th round. They got pick 117, which is only 15 after 102. So, yeah, if they went cornerback and on day 2, that would be bold and smart. I see it. I like it.
So the way I see it with offensive line is right now I think they put a short-term Band-Aid on it with Alex Mack. And I think it's going to stick for this year. And next year, the wax of that Band-Aid might be coming off, and you might have to
Yeah.
rip the Band-Aid off midseason. When you have to rip it off, that's
Right.
when I say that next draft, when they still maintain their picks, right? Because outside of the first round, they've maintained their picks. That's where that second round pick might have to be a developmental tackle or a developmental guard or a developmental center, a guy that you can have on your team ready to go for the year after. And I do think a guy in the offensive line that people are discounting, and a guy who had real traits, who I was excited about. Then he hurt himself. He broke his ankle and opted out, and that's Sean Coleman. He has real traits to be a left tackle in the NFL. He's really big. He moves well for his size. Now, I don't know if you can expect anything after 2 years of not seeing him play football and all of that, but him coming back, I think that he's a better backup tackle than School, than Brunskill, than all of them. In terms of just physical attributes, he has the most attributes of any backup player on that offensive line.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. I mean, they need a starting caliber backup right tackle, someone with traits. That's really important.
We'll see. Because I think a lot of what their plans will, I mean, they have till May 3rd. I think they're going to for sure take the Mike McGlinchey fifth-year option, but no, it's actually, I don't know who's taking the fifth-year option. Yeah, I haven't seen anybody take it. Even Sam Darnold, the Panthers then said, no, they're not going to take it, which I think is a smart move. Wait until if Justin Fields is there at 8, like, what are you doing? Sam Darnold for a year and then go with Justin Fields.
Right. Amit says, stop the Trey Lance hype. He has mechanical flaws. He can't get his feet right in adverse situations when he's rushed for time, has pressure in his face. To say that's going to get fixed is a stretch.
Yeah, but they all have flaws. Whoever you like, you're going to say his things are going to get fixed. Whoever you don't like, you're going to say that things are not going to get fixed.
Smart answer. Okay, last topic. McKinnon. I know it sounds silly, like they got to replace McKinnon, but I mean, there was always an ambitious vision for Jerick McKinnon.
Yes.
He's supposed to be an integral part of the offense. He never was, but now he's gone, and it seems like Kyle's probably still looking for that player. So how is he going to get it?
Yeah, so in theory, like you're talking about the theory of Jerick McKinnon.
Right.
This all-around running back, that's a good receiver, that's a good pass protector, that's good on third down. They're not even looking for him to be a runner. Like, when people say the Niners don't invest in the running back position, let's forget Joe Williams. He was a 4th-round pick, though I think they did see him as a 2nd-round, 3rd-round upside type player. It was just he was too. He ran 4.32, and he was one cut and gone.
Joe Williams is a great football player who didn't want to play football. I understand how the Niners made that mistake. I liked him too. He's great.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, everything you like about Raheem Mostert and Matt Breida, that's what Joe Williams was. So
watch him against my alma mater. He ran for about 8,000 yards in one game. It was remarkable. Okay, keep going.
One cut, his speed was special. So
yes,
right. And then after that, they invested heavily. I mean, people remember Saquon Barkley after 2018 in that draft said the Niners were one of the most interested teams in him, in actively scouting him. They signed Jet McKinnon to a big contract. They signed Tevin Coleman. They were allegedly very interested in Le'Veon Bell until the final minute. This has been confirmed by Le'Veon Bell himself. Yes. So they've been actively seeking to invest in this running back position. I think a lot of people are always upset. Like, you have Breida. Why did you go get Jet McKinnon? You have Mostert. Why are you going in trying to get this guy? Why are you doing this? But they seem to actively do it because they're not interested. They feel they can get a JaMychal Hasty and he can run in their scheme and he can be a good runner. They want this all-around back. And I really like a guy who I think is a perfect fit as both a runner and receiver for them, and that's Michael Carter. I know a lot of people are high on Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is a dog. He runs people over. He runs with an attitude. I've seen stuff where people say that in North Carolina, when they ran outside zone, inside zone, they ran it with Michael Carter, and they ran more power and counter plays with Javonte Williams because he doesn't read outside zone, inside zone as well. These are people who know running backs really well, and they mentioned it, and I think that's a really great thing. And if you go back and watch, which I haven't done in-depthly, but I've watched a little bit because UNC has Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, and Diami Brown. Just a fun watch if you're looking for something to do. Michael, it is a little bit right. Their zone running scheme is more focused with Michael Carter. Michael Carter is so shifty. He's so difficult to tackle one-on-one. He's fast. I think he ran kind of slow, but he's so quick. He's a great receiver, really great receiver. He's just a really good football player. He killed it in the Senior Bowl. We know the Niners like Senior Bowl guys. But I think what I'm realizing is that what I originally thought was this third-round pick that's a way better value than Travis Etienne at 43, who I think is great. Najee Harris, who I think is really good, but not really the Niners type of guy at 43, or Javonte Williams. I thought using your comp pick to take Michael Carter, way better value. Looks like Michael Carter is going to go in the first 2 rounds. So yeah,
he's a hell of a player. He might be my favorite running back in the whole draft. I love him.
I told you,
love him.
He's so good.
So good, man.
He's so good.
Nothing against Najee, Etienne, Javonte, but this guy seems like the modern running back where his receiving skills are off the charts, and he's a little bit smaller. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah, I like Michael Carter.
He's like a less chiseled up version of what Clyde Edwards-Helaire was last year.
Yes.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire also had great short area quickness and all of that, and kind of a shorter guy. So go ahead.
Hold on. I like Michael Carter. You like Michael Carter. We all like Michael Carter. You'd be crazy not to. But we also both said that they need to go cornerback in round 2 and probably cornerback in round 3. So let's finish it this way. When do you think they're going to draft a running back? When?
Round
4? Round 5.
Yeah,
okay.
I think it'll be round 5.
Round 5.
Because
that sounds reasonable.
I mean, it depends. It depends how they look at it. Because I think if you're sitting there in round 3 and Michael Carter is still somehow on the board, to hell with whatever corner you have. Worry about corner in rounds 4 and 5. Go take Michael Carter. And that's how I feel about pick 43. Like, if you're sitting there and Terrace Marshall is somehow still there, like, to hell with the corner. Just go take Terrace Marshall, because like, your receiver position is then set. Because even if you let Debo walk, to me, Terrace Marshall and Brandon Ayuk would be really good. I comp them when we talked about this again. Shameless plug, Blake and Vish Sports. We talked about it with Eric Crocker. Croc's just incredible, by the way.
He's the best. He's the best. Real quick. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it would be like a little Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, where you have these 2 receivers that can do every single thing lining up in a tight split offense, and they would just be incredible.
Yeah, shout out Eric Crocker. He came on my channel. He goes on your channel. He's very generous with his time. I really appreciate it. That dude, I can't believe he doesn't work for an NFL team. I mean, he puts in all the work. He played in the league. It's about time.
He forms his own opinions.
Yeah, it's about time. I think the Niners should call him up. Maybe teams have already, and he doesn't want to be. I don't know. I'm just saying he'd be good at it. I'd be better, but he'd be really good at it. I think Eric should get the job. I'm just saying.
Selfishly, I kind of hope he stays doing what he's doing, because I love reading and listening to what he has to say. Croc.tv, make sure you sub.
Yeah, definitely subscribe. Also, make sure you subscribe to Vish and Blake Sports. Make sure you subscribe to Last Second Sports and Vish. I'm going to be going on Vish's channel on Sunday. So we'll be back. This is the end of Wednesdays with Vish. I got to wrap it up a little early today and leave you guys wanting more. Vish, thanks for making some time on a Wednesday. I know.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. See you guys.